A few days ago, as I began planning for my own Thanksgiving meal, I came across Bon Appetit's recipe for green bean casserole, which immediately evoked those childhood memories of stealthily pushing the gooey green beans off my plates and into the garbage can when I thought that no one was paying attention during pretty much every Thanksgiving meal until I was of driving age. Then I discovered the actual truth about this dish, and I was so shocked at what I found that I just had to share it with you. Hi, I'm Tara. This is Old Fashioned AF, and it's your place for home ec. So you can have mad life skills and #adults, right? So Unit 1 is Thanksgiving, and Dish 1 is green bean casserole, America's favorite Thanksgiving side dish. Think back to the last time you had green bean casserole. Was it your latest work potluck? Maybe it was at the Rent's house for Thanksgiving or some other holiday a few years back. Whenever it was, it probably evokes some serious nostalgia, right? Let's start this lesson with the core ingredient of our casserole, the humble but pervasive and extremely good for you green bean. Green beans are indigenous to Peru, and they spread up and down the equator long before the Spanish brought them back to Europe from the colonies in the 16th century. So when I say green bean casserole, surely now you must be conjuring up some images of maybe some questionable 18th century version being brought back to the colonies and then shared by Townsends in the not so distant past, right? Well, while the dish was originally called green bean bake when it was first released to the masses, you'd actually be incorrect on its age if you think anyone ate such a casserole in its most recent form before the turn of the last century. So when was this dish, associated for so many years with the current holiday season, if you're of a certain age at least, actually created? Well, I can tell you now that it wasn't in the 18th century. And in fact, it was in the late 1950s by one Dorcas Riley. Yes, that was her real name. And yes, I think the name Dorcas needs to make a comeback. Unfortunately, there are no fair use images of our dear darling Dorcas, so I've linked a photo of her in the description below. Thanks, internet. Anyway, isn't that a surprise? I suppose the 50s was the decade of the casserole, but even more surprising is why this dish, so loved and cherished for its homey familiarity across multiple generations, was created in the first place. There actually is a good reason as to why this pseudo-historian mistook the green bean casserole's original use-by date, and that is the omission of an obvious ingredient. Curiously, the Bon Appetit recipe that I referenced earlier, in it, cream of mushroom soup is completely omitted and replaced by milk and heavy cream, thus creating the potential for an already somewhat bland dish to literally just taste like baked milk and beans with salty onions on top. Perhaps this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I wouldn't know yet. You'll have to wait until tomorrow when my husband and I share our own verdicts on this dish and a couple of others on Halfway Planet. The point is that by omitting the cream of mushroom soup, this dish ceases to exist in its original form because the green bean casserole
was created by Campbell Soup.
Yes, you heard that right. The casserole that still gets craved every Thanksgiving was tested and created in a lab whose sole purpose was to sell canned soup to women looking for the latest side dish trend. So the question is, can we even call Bon Appetit's casserole the real deal? Is a green bean casserole without the very soup that the dish was created for even worthy of the title of green bean casserole with all capital letters? Well, yeah. It's called a green bean casserole, not a mushroom soup casserole. So as long as it has green beans, plus at least a couple more ingredients, then it is, in fact, a green bean casserole. The thing is, you came here for my recipe and not Bon Appetit's, surely. So let's get into how to make my green bean casserole. The reintroduction of the cream of mushroom soup makes this arguably the easiest dish ever to make. But feel free to prove me wrong. You can find this recipe and lots of other ones on my website, oldfashionedaf.com, in the description below. And if you make this dish, Please use the hashtag CraftyVintageLady across all social media so that I can see your glorious creations, whether they're of the green bean variety or not. I'm using a 2-quart casserole dish, but if you're using something larger like a 9x11, then just double the recipe and you'll be fine. First, you're gonna take a bag of frozen green beans and place them in your casserole dish. Add a can of cream of mushroom soup, as well as a can of sliced mushrooms, rinsed and drained first. And a half a cup of French fried onions. As well as a half a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Mix all the ingredients together until everything is covered in white, cheesy goo, and then pop the dish into the oven for about 45 minutes. You'll want to leave your casserole in the oven for at least an hour if you're using a larger pan. All the details on what temperature to preheat your oven to are of course linked in the description below. And while the casserole bakes, I would like to take a moment to thank my patrons. Thank you so much, my small but mighty bunch of crafters, for giving me the opportunity to share this, my love of vintage, bygone lifestyles, and, general craftiness with all of you. Oh, that must be the casserole. When you take the casserole out, cover the top with more shredded cheddar and at least another half cup of French fried onions, and then place it back in the oven for another 5 to 10 minutes or until all of the cheese has melted completely. If you'd like to become a patron of Old Fashioned AF, then you can visit the link below as well. Become a patron of $5 or more before November 15th, and I will send you one of the recipes in this new series. Will it be green bean casserole or will it be something else? I have quite a few Thanksgiving videos coming up soon, so it could be any of them featured in this series. This dish is most definitely best served piping hot, and the addition of the cheese adds a pleasing flavor to an otherwise relatively flavorless dish, and the crispy onions are notwithstanding. Would you like to see my own reaction to this once hated dish from my childhood memories? Better yet, would you like to see my British husband try it for himself for the first time? Visit our other channel in that case, Lost in the Pond, to see the result in the next couple of days. But in the meantime, feel free to subscribe to Old Fashioned AF to connect more historic lifestyle skills to your present day life. Bon appetit!